You've written about moving your work up the chain of command. So how does that look like in terms of submission and acceptance, and then getting more respect and more resources? So how does that happen?
I love this question because it's like, well, I have a sales background, which you can cut this out if you want, but I come from a business background. And so I approached my writing when I decided to get published, which wasn't when I first started writing. When I first started writing, basically I was in a small community where people said, I have a magazine, let me have some work. Then it changed. Then it turned into you had to be very formal about submissions. And I didn't have the patience or the emotional stamina for rejection. So I kept writing, and then I decided, okay, I get it. If you want to play this game, if you want to have books published, you have to go through this process of submission. So I decided to do that. Well, the way that you have to do it is as if you are a salesperson. You throw a bunch of stuff against the wall, as we used to say, and see what sticks. So you get your fabulous 6 poems in a packet, and you mail them to very small journals, email or mail, okay, hard copy or email. And then you do that for about 6 months or a year before you start to get some traction. You get some traction with journals that you never heard of. But now all of a sudden you have a little resume going. And if you're smart, and the way that you should be, you leverage that. So you keep submitting again, and then that list grows, even if they're small journals, even if they're webzines. It grows and it grows. And then you realize that people start to write you beautiful rejection notices because they see that you are a published author, and they start to take you more seriously. Then you leverage that, and you keep leveraging, and then before you know it, you're getting invitations to submit work. So there is a definite commitment to the process, but once you get the traction and you start to have that list of publications, you just have to keep going for bigger and bigger. And in the literary world, it's known what is a kind of a bottom, well, let's say an academic journal that won't get any exposure. Then in the middle, there are maybe journals that are put out that by a small press, but they also don't get any exposure. And then you have what we call your top tier literary journals. And those are the holy grails, the Paris Review, the New Yorker, Poetry Magazine. You keep trying. And I love this story about Jane Hirschfield and Kay Ryan, which is that they sat at their kitchen tables and they sent out hundreds of packages, and people said, what are you doing? This is futile. And they said, we want to get the editors used to our voices. And you know their story. Kay Ryan became the Poet Laureate of the United States, and Jane Hirschfield is incredibly successful. But I mean, there is no writer that gets from point A to point B without going through this process. And it's something that I would say it is the biggest block for writers. Not their art, not their craft, and not their motivation. It's this getting over this hurdle of how do I build that writer's resume to build up my credibility in the literary world, because it's very competitive. I mean, think if you want to be an actor, you take every part that you can.
So are there any tips or shortcuts then?
Yes, actually there are. There are. I tell people, okay, there's the sitting at your desk, there's the research, there's the submitting, and that is the hard labor camp work of being a writer. But the fast track is to go out into the community and network. And I probably have, I would say, at least 30% of my work has been published because of people that I've met that have said, oh, love your work, love you. They never even saw my work, just love you. Send me something. And so that is a way that there are people, there are publications, there are journals that don't want to go through the general submission because they don't want the 1,000 submissions. So they'll just kind of spread the word around. So if you're in the right place at the right time, you're getting the word.